program is rated MALSV. It contains strong language, sexual situations, and violence. It is intended only for mature audiences.
Finally, show with the balls to call it like it is. Rated R Safety Show on Safety FM.
Countdown to audio torture.
The Rated R Safety Show starts in 3, 2, 1.
Let the eardrum pain begin.
Forget the corporate bullshit. This is the Rated R Safety Show with your host, Dr. It doesn't matter who the host is.
Well. Is that not the truth or what? It does not matter who the host is, that's for sure. Anyways, today is Monday, November the 22nd of 2021, day 326 of the year, and only 39 days left to go, if you are keeping track of all that kind of fun stuff. Anyways, we are broadcasting live from our temporary studio in Fisherman Village out in the middle of nowhere. And we are streaming across the multiverse of Safety FM, and then, of course, hanging out with our friends and colleagues at that different place that we do stuff with.
Radio.
So we are hanging out on RadioBig.fm as we do the things that we do around here. So if you are paying attention and watching on the video stream, well, hello, how are you? If you are not hanging on the video stream, that's perfectly fine as well, because we are a radio station first and everything else secondary is really the way that it kind of hangs out. Anyways, we've been enjoying our time in the temp studio doing the stuff around here. I hope you had a fantastic weekend, because here's where it gets interesting. Either Friday was your last day to work for a long period of time because you decided to take the extended week, or you worked on Friday. Some people worked on the weekend too. And then all of a sudden, come Wednesday, this is the short week, and then you kind of go into the long extended journey. So there you go. Some interesting stuff on how to do it. So as we do talk and move and groove and all that kind of fun stuff, with let's see, Thursday and Friday being the observance of the holiday, well, I'm pretty sure we won't be here, at least at this portion. You know how it goes. But anyway, so I hope you're getting off to a good start on what Thanksgiving week will look at, especially if you're based in an area that celebrates it, because if you're in somewhere that doesn't celebrate it, it doesn't really make a lot of sense why people talk about it. So let's get moving and grooving and talking about the things that were going on inside of the world as the trendings occurred over the weekend. Saturday was National Adoption Day, so that was hitting the trends. Happy birthday, Mr. President was trending on Saturday in honor of President Joe's 79th birthday. Sunday was National Gingerbread Cookie Day, getting off to a start there. Also was German was trending on Sunday morning after a tweet as, "German, I will never understand how on earth a kid can walk on an open street with a gun," referencing to the Kyle Rittenhouse, went viral, responding to tweets that bashed the comments calling out the Holocaust and defunding and defending America's Second Amendment. So there you go. Some things to think about there. And then last but not least was hashtag how to tell locals from tourists landed on Twitter's top 10 yesterday. Tweets included tourists always look like they are wasting away again in Margaritaville. Tourists wear fanny packs. They're very upset when attractions aren't open. The Mickey ears and sandals and socks, of course, would be the other thing. I'm almost wondering, like, was this one that was Florida specific? Because it does sound very specific to Florida on some of the things that were actually listed there. So let's keep in mind of that anyways. Anyways, it is currently 6 minutes past the top of the hour. If you're new to the show, let me explain to you kind of the layout of the land. It kind of goes something similar to this. We hang out, we talk about the things that are going on inside of the world of the trends. We talk about the things that are going on inside of the world of the news, and professional broadcasters come in and talk about all the fun stuff that is going on inside of the world. I come back and kind of let's see, how would I say it? I comment on what they have to say, and then I do some additional some add-on, some more information to share with you. For us to be able to move forward and do all that kind of fun stuff. So as we do talk today, it'll be an interesting week because I'm kind of I'm kind of in the move and the groove of doing some other things, and I think we're going to have to get to the point where you and I are going to have to talk about this. We're going to have to talk about this. We'll probably have further discussion about that, at some point during this week, where you and I are going to need to talk some serious business and then make some determinations on what you want to see and what I have planned, and then we can kind of go from there. Anyways, I think it's time for us to get you to our friends at Feature Story News, because, they're always featuring and storying and all that other kind of fun stuff. So let's get that moving. Let's do that. Should we do it right now? I think we should. Let's do that.
Here is the news on the Rated R Safety Show.
From Feature Story News in London, I'm Benji Hire. At least 5 people have been killed and more than 40 injured after a car ploughed into a parade in the US state of Wisconsin. Dozens of people, including children, were hit during the incident in the city of Waukesha, west of Milwaukee, on Sunday evening. One person remains in custody. Nick Harper has the latest.
Mobile phone videos show the red SUV driving at speed into the parade, where a marching band was playing and children were dancing. What should have been an afternoon of celebration turning to tragedy, as Police Chief Dan Thompson described it at a press conference in the hours afterwards. Many took to social media to express horror at what had happened, but also fear. There's no clear motive, but the state of Wisconsin was already on high alert. The city where this happened, less than an hour away from Kenosha, where Carl Rittenhouse was acquitted of double murder charges on Friday in a case that split the nation, led to protests, and had more than 500 National Guard on standby for potential violence.
As many as 40,000 people have been protesting in Belgium over the weekend as COVID-19 restrictions are reimposed. Our Europe correspondent Lucy Hoff is in Brussels.
Now, some of those protesters were seen throwing fireworks at riot police. In response, tear gas and water cannon were used by officers. 3 police officers left injured. We also had similar demonstrations in the Netherlands, 2 days of demonstrations that also led to violent scenes, and in Austria, where a new lockdown is coming into force today, as well as mandatory vaccination. 10,000 people taking to the streets of the capital city of Vienna, again to show their opposition, and a sense that as restrictions for COVID-19 continue, more protests look to be inevitable in the weekends to follow.
Meanwhile, the German government says mandatory vaccination may become unavoidable there as cases rise. The World Health Organization predicts 500,000 more deaths by February if the current rates continue. Farmers' unions in India are mounting pressure on the government to pass a new law protecting their income, as Shankar reports from New Delhi.
Farmers' unions are planning a series of events. This includes marching to the parliament next week when the winter session of the House is set to formally repeal the farm laws. They are also asking for a new law that guarantees them a fixed price for their produce. Existing provisions allow that in principle, but in practice, many farmers are forced to sell their produce at much cheaper rates.
And the Women's Tennis Association insists a video call between Peng Shui and the president of the International Olympic Committee does not address the WTA's concerns over the Chinese players' well-being. Peng disappeared from the public eye for almost 3 weeks after she made sexual assault allegations against a senior Chinese minister. Her absence led to widespread international condemnation, with sports stars and governments calling on China to prove that she is safe. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks, looking today at the debate over the Elgin Marbles. They are back in the news again after the Greek Prime Minister appealed to British leader Boris Johnson to return them to Athens. The British government says it will now be up to the trustees of the British Museum to determine the fate of the sculpted marbles that were once part of the Parthenon Temple on the Acropolis. They've been in British custody since 1816, when Lord Elgin, ambassador to the Ottoman Empire, ordered their removal. Historian Dominic Selwood with the backstory.
The story around the Elgin Marbles is actually quite clear. Lord Elgin purchased them, as you mentioned, from the Sublime Porte of the Ottoman Empire with a legal document, with a firman, and he rescued them because they were being destroyed. They were being used for target practice, ground down for lime, bits being chipped off and given to tourists. If Elgin hadn't bought them, and he bankrupted himself and his family for 3 generations in doing it, they simply wouldn't be there. And you can see much of that from the state of the ones that were left in Greece, were left up on the Acropolis and were damaged by the pollution from Eleusis. So I think taking the historical perspective is very important. We can decide whatever we want to do in the future, but let's not say that they were stolen, because they weren't. Other artifacts in other museums were taken by force, but these ones weren't.
The British Museum's position currently is that there is great public benefit to seeing the sculptures within the context of the institution's broader global collection. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
A reminder for you of our top stories. At least 5 people have been killed and more than 40 injured after a car ploughed into a parade in the US state of Wisconsin. Tens of thousands of people have been protesting across Europe over the weekend as COVID-19 restrictions are reimposed in several countries. And the Women's Tennis Association insists a video call between Peng Shui and the president of the International Olympic Committee does not address the WTA's concerns over the Chinese players' well-being. That's the latest feature story news. I'm Benji Hire in London.
This show is almost as enjoyable as hearing the sound of the toilet flush. Rated R Safety Show on Safety FM.
Okay, what are you wearing right now?
Nothing.
That's right. So mommy's going to teach you how to dress yourself. Underwear always comes first, name tag at the back, then pants, then shirt. Get the first button in the right hole or you have to start all over. Socks going first, then shoes, right on right, left on left. With shoelaces, just take the ends, cross them over, switch the loops, the rabbit goes down the hole, pull tight, and you're left with bunny ears. Got it? Why are your pants on your head?
Most parenting is hard to do in just 2 minutes. But 2 minutes twice a day making sure they brush their teeth is easier, and it could help save them from a lifetime of tooth pain. Visit 2min2x.org to find out more. A message from the Partnership for Healthy Mouths, Healthy Lives, and the Ad Council.
This message is for all of you sitting in the passenger seat. And apologies if it gets a little uncomfortable. But how does it feel to be at the mercy of someone who thinks a random text is more important than your life? Someone who takes their eyes off the road while speeding along in a 3-ton hunk of steel. Freaky, right? Well, why not just ask them to stop? Or better yet, volunteer to text for them. It might be a little awkward, but believe me, you'll live.
Learn more at stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
We are live outside the home of Joe and Rosie Goddard, where a pretty big tickle fight broke out just minutes ago. Sources say their father instigated the laughter. Let's go inside for a comment. Apparently, they have no comment. Dads, let this be a reminder that it only takes a moment to make a moment. Call 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
How's it going? I'm having a stroke. Are you going to shake my hand? I'm having a stroke. Wow, you're not even moving your arm. I'm having a stroke.
When someone is having a stroke, they may not be able to say it with words, but their body language will tell you loud and clear. Look for FAST. F, face drooping. A, arm weakness. S, speech difficulty. T, time to call 911 immediately. Know the sudden signs. Spot a stroke fast. Visit strokeassociation.org. Brought to you by the American Stroke Association and the Ad Council.
Hey, are you tired of hanging around and talking about safety in a boring kind of format? Well, I got something for you. If you haven't hung out with us yet at safetyfm.com, I'm going to encourage you to do so. Yeah, if you come out to Safety FM, you can come hang out with all kinds of safety professionals. Some are safety professionals, some are just people that are talking about safety. But we want to do it in a format that makes it fun and entertaining. If you're kind of trying to figure out what the FM portion is, well, we're a radio station and also a podcast network. You can come out, hang out, and listen to my show, The Jay Allen Show. You can listen to Todd Conklin with the pre-accident investigation, Blaine J. Hoffman with the Safety Pro, the Hop Nerd, Sam Goodman, just to name a few on what can be found on the station. Different things for different people, trying to bring safety in an entertaining form. SafetyFM.com. Go to the website, download the app, and carry it with you all day long. SafetyFM.com. We'll be waiting for you. It's always amazing to me on how technology changes, and so does the environment that we're in. And cyber criminals will do everything they can to take advantage of a system. If you don't own a home, you have nothing to fear about what I'm about to tell you. But if you own a home like me and you don't guard it with home title lock, you're inviting home title fraud. One of the fastest growing crimes. Cyber thieves around the world know our home values are sky high at the moment, and that makes us a target. The crime is scary simple. Let me explain it to you real quick. A cyber thief simply forges your name on a property sale form and refiles it. That's it. Now he or she is on the deed of your home and you have no idea that you're a victim. Then the person takes out a loan on your home and vanishes, leaving you to prove to the police that you didn't commit bank fraud. Home title locks put a virtual barrier around your home title. The instant they detect any kind of tampering or anybody messing around, they help shut it down. Look, if you have equity in your home, you need to guard it the best way that you can. Some people might even go as far as guarding it with their life. Go to HometitleLock.com and register your address to see if you already are a victim. And enter the code RADIO. That's RADIO. That's the code RADIO for 30 days free of protection. That's code RADIO at HometitleLock.com.
Listen to our host of the Rated R Safety Show self-implode on our airwaves only on Safety FM.
Okay, there you go. 17 minutes past the top of the hour as you and I are hanging out on this lovely Monday. Hopefully everything is good and grand inside of whatever the hell you have going on this week, and hopefully it flies by whichever way you wanted to do. Anyways, let's get to the top of the hit list, because that's always important for us to start talking about, because that's going to be the gig. What is going on inside of the hit list? So let's take it from the very top. The numbers of COVID-19 deaths in 2021 surpassed the ones for 2020 last week, according to the data from Johns Hopkins University. Since the start of the pandemic, the U.S. has been at seen about 770,816 deaths, more than double the CDC count for 2020. More than 47 million COVID-19 cases have been reported in the U.S. since the start of the pandemic. So let's ask the question, why is the year's number higher than the one prior to the vaccine if it helps prevent death? So that's going to be a question to ask. I mean, here's where people kind of get confused, especially when I start talking about stuff like this. I am just looking at logic in regards to trying to have a better understanding of stuff. Because here's the thing. If I have the question and you have the question, why should we not be able to ask the question? I think it's a very important thing that we ask the question opposed to just leaving it right there in the dark and never asking the question whatsoever. Just saying, just the thought process. So just the thought, because, some people don't like to ask questions because there's always that area of, should we be that person of asking the question? Anyway, so since last week, I told you we would talk about it as soon as we got the information. So let's start talking about it. Kyle Rittenhouse was acquitted on all counts on Friday. The 18-year-old wept as the verdict was read out loud, while mostly quiet in the Wisconsin over the weekend. About 200 protesters rioted in Portland, Oregon, following the verdict. Windows were smashed, officers were pelted with objects, and one group was allegedly talking about burning down a local government building. Protests were also held in New York, Los Angeles, and Chicago. So there you go. I mean, here's some information that we can discuss, and of course, I still think that this is a very hot topic in regards to what we're talking about here with Kyle Rittenhouse. And I know that we spoke about it briefly in regards of innocent until proven guilty. We talked about that. And I know that some people did not like the wording on that, but that's supposedly how we live here in the U.S. of A in regards of what actually does occur. Now, listen, I'm still kind of a loss of words here. I mean, there's so many divides when it comes to the whole thing. Well, if you start looking online, I mean, of course, there's always divides with everything when you start looking online. I always wonder if we ever took the amount of time of what actually brings our divides in and kind of look at what's funneling that whole system on how if things would be different. If you actually stopped kind of dividing the whole thing and just kind of fought what you were against, how would that work? Maybe I'm putting too much logic in this stuff this morning. Maybe I should just shut up. No, seriously.
What did he just say?
We at Safety FM don't always agree with viewpoints of our hosts and guests.
Now back to real safety talk on Safety FM.
Okay, so here you go. The FDA authorized booster shots of Pfizer and Moderna COVID-19 vaccine for all adults on Friday. The decision replaces the thought that only those at high risk or over the age of 65 needed the extra jab. So there you go. If you've already received the vaccine and you were thinking, hey, why can I not get the booster? Might be the time to give it some consideration to do so. Of course, like I always tell people, the choice is yours. So there you go. Anyway, so listen to this real quick. This is actually coming out of the world of Orlando, Florida. You know, the place that I talk about quite often. Disney has put a pause on COVID-19 vaccine mandates for employees at the Florida theme park after Governor Ron DeSantis made it illegal illegal for employers to require all workers to get a jab. Over 90% of active cast members in Florida confirmed that they were vaccinated before the company announced that they were halting the mandate. So what do you think about that? So, I mean, it's an opinion-based question, and I know that sometimes when I start asking for opinions, people start getting upset about what I'm asking for. It's an opinion-based question on what do you think about it. Do you think that it was the right thing for the governor to say that it was illegal for people inside of the state of Florida to be or employers in the state of Florida to require a vaccine? Because that's going to be one thing. And then let's say, for instance, hypothetically, you were on the standpoint that you did not want to get the vaccine and you opted to do it because your employer told you that you could no longer work unless you had it. And then all of a sudden you got the damn thing. And all of a sudden now you have some questions. And the employer just said, okay, we're retracting what we originally said. Something to think about real quick. A lot of stuff is going to come about on that one, that's for sure. And how many other states will follow suit when it comes to that? Maybe that's the question that we need to start asking ourselves.
More sarcasm than a Mortal Kombat beatdown. Rated R Safety Show.
Okay, an Air Force pilot was killed and 2 others were hurt during an incident at a Texas base on Friday. Military officers from Longley Air Force Base that said the 2 Talon trainer aircraft were involved in the fatal incident. The pilot killed was identified on Sunday as Lieutenant Anthony D. Wentz, 23, from Falcon, Colorado. One of the other pilots is in critical condition, and the other one was treated and then released. No further detail was actually provided of what exactly was going on. Driver scrambled to grab a handful of cash after bags fell off of an armored truck in Southern California freeway over the weekend. The truck was heading to San Diego at the Office of Federal Deposit Insurance Corp. when one of the doors popped open and money started falling out, according to a Highway Patrol Sergeant Curtis Martin. The bills blowing all over the roadway brought the traffic to a halt. 2 people were arrested, and and any others found that had taken money will face criminal charges, according to Sergeant Martin said. It is unknown how much money was lost. So hold on real quick, because here's where it gets a little iggy. What if you were just grabbing money to help help sort it to give it back? I mean, so now if you were trying to be a good Samaritan, you're in the bad light because you were helping try to grab money to potentially hand back. I'm just saying,
Safety in a way never heard of before. The Rated R Safety Show on Safety FM.
Okay, so here you go. Some more information. At least 20 people are injured and several are dead, including children, after an SUV plowed into a Christmas parade in Wisconsin on Sunday. Video circulating on social media shows a red SUV speeding down the block street and hitting and running over parade marchers and attendees. Reports indicate that the law enforcement has detained the 39-year-old Daryl Brooks as a suspect who appears to have a troubled history with law enforcement and was out on $1,000 bail as of last Friday. So, I mean, let's talk about this, because of course where he is located, that is going to play a factor into portion of the conversation. Let's just be realistic. We can't lie about that portion. But then some other oddities that come into the whole thing, where you start thinking, okay, what exactly was going on with the guy that he thought that this was a good idea to do this? I mean, it's crazy to me that we start thinking about this and we start doing, the conversation. And I know this was part of the story that was discussed on Feature Story News, but I start looking at it and go, I mean, at what point does it make sense? I mean, it doesn't click in my brain on how all of a sudden, it was okay for you to make the assumption that this was going to be something that was going to be not spoken about, not said about, not things that weren't going to be discussed about this whole thing. It's just mind-boggling to me, when it's all said and done, that this is something that that people will do and go, okay, it shouldn't be an issue that I have decided to do this. I mean, I don't get it. And then, of course, the conversation always comes about in regards of, okay, this happened. What should be done next? I mean, there's a lot of things, of course, that come to mind that should be done next. But also at the same time, too, it's like, I just don't get it. And I know that I feel like when we start talking about this, how detailed do you get about these things? How detailed do you get about all of the information that we're discussing here? How detailed do you get about all of this? Because it's always going to stir an emotional event based on stupidity of others. It's just kind of the way that it goes. I mean, let's not lie here. It's an easy thing to discuss. It's an easy thing for us to go through the whole conversation, opposed to it just being, okay, this is just another news story and let's just run through it. Because that's not the case. The case is what exactly occurred and what was the thought process behind it. That's for sure. Opposed to it just being, okay, another thing happened. It's time to move on. I mean, I don't know. It's just a lot of weird stuff going on right now. Anyways, I think it's that time during the day that we should probably go ahead and start having that conversation of stuff that we call around here that we normally title our main story. Yes, it is 28 minutes past the top of the hour. So I think it's time to start moving and grooving. And let's go ahead and go that particular direction, because I think it's going to be about that time. So let's get that started. I think we should do that right now.
Here is our main story on the Rated R Safety Show.
Okay, so depending on what you were doing, on where you were hanging out and taking a look at what we had going on, it might be an interesting question or a difficult question or one of those things where you're taking a look around and going, huh? And if you looked at the titling this morning, if you're on the radio station, and we have discussed 1,000 times before, you will not know the title of this thing, and that's perfectly fine. But you can either teach or you can learn, but you can't do both at the same time. And some people might look and go, what do you mean? Is that similar to you can learn and improve, or you can punish? Well, I guess you can take some wording inside of that, but I will tell you, as of recent, I've been reading I shouldn't say I should be reading, or I have been reading, because that's a lie. I have been read to, because that's what Audible does for me. It reads to me. But I have been read to a book recently about having discussions and arguments and all that kind of fun stuff. And it's interesting when you start thinking about this. And if we kind of step back for a moment and kind of look at the bigger picture, it's going to make sense in a moment. So let me try to give the explanation on what I'm trying to say here. When you start going through the process, if you are a teacher or if you're a learner, I mean, you play the category of one or the other, but you can't be both at the same time. And let me explain. It is impossible to teach something and learn something while you're doing it. So I can't teach you X and learn from the same time and learn at the same time. I mean, I might hear things and then do some analogies afterwards and all that kind of fun stuff. But for you to be able to pull that off at the same time, well, it's probably going to be virtually impossible to do. I'm sure some people would love to have that discussion and say otherwise, but let's think about this for a moment. How often as what you do for work, and you know what you do for work, I know what you do for work, you know what I do for work, I know what you do for work. Because if not, you wouldn't be hanging out here on a safety station. And we started discussing about the world of safety. And you know that sometimes you go into organizations or you'll be somewhere inside of where you work and you want to have a discussion about something. And you are going there from the perspective of teaching people. And all of a sudden, it turns into something else. This could be, and when I say teaching people, you can take that for whatever you want. It could be a conversation with C-suite people where you're trying to assist in explaining on how some of the safety functions work. Or it could actually be that where you're actually teaching people. But here's the gig. You can't do the teaching and learn at the same time, at least not during the same conversation. I mean, you can't do it where I'm talking right now and I'm learning something as I'm actually talking. I mean, I might be learning that, hey, there's noises a little bit louder than what I expected. But when I start taking a look at this whole thing, it is impossible to teach and learn at once. So how often do we go into conversations with not expecting one side of the equation? You go in from the perspective of, hey, I'm going into this, and today I am going to be taught X, Y, and Z. And then all of a sudden there's the flip the script scenario where you think all of a sudden I need to have someone learn from my knowledge base. I will tell you, throughout the years of actually being able to be involved with martial arts, I have seen this happen more and more, where that would kind of tie in a little bit easier in some of the conversations, where I will go into a discipline of martial arts that's different than the traditional one that a person might be into. And all of a sudden, somebody turns around and goes, well, this is not what I learned. This is how I learned to do it. Not realizing that you might be in a different house. You might be in a different style. They did not come to you and ask you to join their group for you to teach them their style in most occurrences. You are there because you wanted to learn a different style. So it is not your turn to teach. It is your turn to learn. Now, the conversation does turn around and say, hey, Bob, can you turn around and teach us because we would like to learn from? That's a different conversation. And I think that sometimes when we are learning, teaching, and so on, we are so waiting for that moment to speak, where opposed to listening to what is going on and learning from that moment, we turn around and we're wanting to teach. We are wanting to turn around and do something that would be considered out of the ordinary. Now, I want you to think about this because this is an interesting week, of course, of having that conversation. As you go into your holiday festivities this week of giving thanks for Thanksgiving and everything that has occurred this year, what are you looking at? Do you think that you'll be involved in some of those conversations with friends, family members, or whatsoever, where you'll turn around and be like, okay, are they done? Now it's my turn to talk, and waiting for that one moment in time on being able to do so? I just asked the question because you know how those things come about. You know how those things turn around and we start having those discussions. It's a real easy thing to do, especially in the stuff that we get to listen to, especially when we get close to family members and so on as we're having those conversations. But think about it as also from the standpoint of how it applies inside of your workplace. Have you ever had a moment in time where you're teaching but you're learning at the same time? I mean, I think it's impossible to do, and I think that the author was pretty much spot on when it comes to this thing. I think the author was really good in regards to the book of what I'm talking about. Maybe I should pull up the book title opposed to just saying the book, opposed to just saying, hey, what the name of the book is. Now, I'm sure that the guy is going to be considered slightly controversial because I like to read those oddities in books where people are not the always the nicest about it. The title of the book is called The Art of the Argument, so that's something to take a look at if you're interested in doing so. It is readily available on Audible, just for the sake and purposes of actually referencing it. Like I always tell people, I am one of those type of people that likes to read books or listen to books or however you want to take a view of that, but also come with a bit of doubt when it comes to things, because I always want to listen to other people's concepts before we start giving a breakdown of everything that's going on. But I think that concept is a pretty interesting one. Now, listen, not everything that it's inside of the book will I say that I agree with 100%, but those are things to think about inside of the book. But anyways, you can't learn and teach at the same time. Think about it. But then again, like I tell people all the time, what do I know? I'm just a guy behind a microphone.
What did he just say?
We at Safety FM don't always agree with viewpoints of our hosts and guests.
Now back to real safety talk on Safety FM.
Don't go anywhere.
You're listening to the home of real safety talk.
You are listening to Safety FM. We'll be right back.
Hamilton was adopted from a rescue in 2008. He really likes to be around people. I get out my mat and I'm doing a downward dog and he's underneath. He's quite the pug about town. He gets invited to a lot of parties. He knows he's a pretty big deal. Look at this little face. How could you not love him?
Hamilton the Pug, Instagram star and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
You make sure his toys don't have any sharp edges. You taught her what to do when the smoke alarm goes off. You do so much to keep your child safe. But are you using the right car seat for your child? Car crashes are a leading killer of children ages 1 to 13. Protect your child's future at every stage of life. For information on the right seat for your child, visit safercar.gov/the right seat.
A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
So you see, son, good manners are important. Should I go through it again?
Yes.
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
Exactly. Always say please, thank you, you're welcome, and excuse me. Sit up straight, hold doors open, don't speak with your mouth full, keep your elbows off the table. Share your things, play nice, and generally treat others the way you'd like to be treated. Got it?
Got it.
And stop picking your nose.
Most parenting is hard to do in just 2 minutes. But 2 minutes twice a day making sure they brush their teeth is easier, and it could help save them from a lifetime of tooth pain. Visit 2min2x.org to find out more. A message from the Partnership for Healthy Mouths, Healthy Lives, and the Ad Council.
I'm a retired school psychologist, and helping people was my thing. After my stroke, when Meals on Wheels started, I was on the other end of the stick, so to speak. My name is Julius Gaines, creative writer, poet, photographer.
1 in 6 seniors faces the threat of hunger, and millions more live in isolation. Drop off a hot meal and say a quick hello. Volunteer for Meals on Wheels by donating your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org. This message brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
You know how sometimes in life you have those moments of shoulda, coulda, woulda, you know what I'm talking about. It happens all the time to people. So let's talk about that very sensitive subject of male pattern baldness. Don't go through that moment where you're going, I shoulda, coulda, woulda. Let's talk about my friends at Keeps. 2 out of 3 men experience some form of hair loss by the time they are 35, with more than 50 million men in the U.S. suffer from male pattern baldness. You don't have to be one of them. Think about this. There are only 2 FDA-approved medications that can prevent hair loss, and my friends at Keeps offer both. Keeps offers simple, stress-free way for you to keep your hair, convenient virtual doctor's consultations, and medication delivered straight to your door. I mean, I have to tell you, just for the whole sake of not having to leave your house to have the consultation, that should sell itself, but the low-cost treatments start just as low as $10 per month, and Keeps offers generic versions. Discreet packaging and proven results. Keeps has more 5-star reviews than any of its competitors. I want you to think about that. People love the product. Prevention is key. Treatment can take 4 to 6 months to see results, so act fast. All you have to do to take action to prevent hair loss is to go to keeps.com. That's KEEPS.com/safety to receive your first month of treatment for free. That's keeps.com, KEEPS.com/safety to get your first month free. That's KEEPS.com/safety. Remember, not everybody has such a beautiful head as mine. So don't be saying coulda, shoulda, woulda. Act on Keeps right now. There you go, 40 minutes past the top of the hour as you and I are hanging out both together. This is Shortcomings, the SLCT remix by Ross Pig and They Dream by Day. The song's readily available on Spotify and iTunes. Want to thank Ross Pig for allowing us to play this one today on the Rated R Safety Show. Gentlemen, what a week we have ahead here. Let's just continue moving and grooving as we are talking and doing our thing. I have to tell you, when it comes to techno music, as you are fully aware, this thing could go and go and go. perfectly fine with it. Some people don't love it, but hey, if you don't love it, if you don't like it, learn to love it. Oh, that's a whole other story. Anyway, so let's get talking, moving, grooving, and doing all the fun stuff that we should be doing, because I think it's time to get into what is going on inside of the world of the news as we continue going through everything. So collared collar, fetching sticks and chewing toys may soon seem like a quaint old hobby for the modern doggos. Researchers at the University of Glasgow have created a ball that allows dogs to video call their owner when they are feeling lonely. Designed by the tackle separation anxiety in pets, Dog Phone is a soft ball fitted for the sensor inside. When the dog plays with the ball, the signal is sent to a laptop, which launches a video call. Its inventor says that with her own dog, Zach, by the end of the experiment, he was calling her 5 times a day. Did Zach know that what he was doing? She's not sure, but it sounds like Zach enjoys enjoys it nonetheless. Dogs can also answer a call from their owners by moving the ball. That's great. So now the dog knows how to use Zoom better than I do. So I guess that's an important thing. And yes, it won't be a great feeling to be at work and watch your dog chew the couch and not be able to do anything about it. I mean, I guess that's something to think about. So let's think about this real quick, because this is where, the world of the strange always occurs. You know that we're already at a point where some of the dog feeders and cat feeders actually have a way for you to video into them, meaning that it gives you a sensor letting you know that your dog or your cat is at the bowl eating. So now we're at a point with a dog toy where the dog can call you. So imagine this right now. You and I are hanging out doing the things that we're doing together. And all of a sudden, I have to take a pause for the cause because my dog's calling me. And how do you explain that the first time to someone? How do you turn around and go, I'm going to have to, can you hang on real quick because my dog's calling? And what kind of conversation do you have around other people with your dog? It's a whole other story.
You are listening to a radio god. What? This has to be an error. That host is not a radio god. Anyways, this is the Rated R Safety Show on Safety FM.
So take a listen to this one. A hiker discovered a Hawaiian stream with 1.2% alcohol content. The drunken brook was discovered when a hiker sniffed a strange aroma while enjoying the scenery on the island. He contacted the local environmental activists who alerted the Department of Health. The agency determined that the runoff pipe that had contained water that contained water that became a little bit alcoholic at a 1.2% alcohol by volume, and the same amount found in low alcohol beers. That's what I call a great streaming service. I mean, think about that real quick. You're hanging out, you're taking a hike, you see a stream, you smell a scent that you're familiar with, you take a little bit of the sample, and hello, you have a Coors Cutter. I mean, that's something to think about. I mean, I would say in most occasions, people would be like, what is going on? Because there's just no other ways to explain it. Could you imagine sitting around and being like, what happened right now? I mean, I just don't get it. Anyways, let's continue talking. A man has been banned from all-you-can-eat restaurants for eating too much. A Chinese food live streamer known as Mr. Kang says that he has been blacklisted from the Hanadid Seafood Barbecue Buffet in Changsha after his series of binges. He says that 1.5 kilograms of pork Trouter during his first visit and 3.5 to 4 kilograms of prawns on another visit. He claims that the restaurant discriminates against people who can eat a lot. But the restaurant owners told the reporters that Mr. Kang was eating him out of business, saying that every time he comes here, I lose a few hundred yang. He went on to claim that Kang can drink 20 or 30 bottles of soy milk in just one visit, and while other customers, usually people use tongs to pick up prawns, Kang uses the tray to pick them up, and he just takes them out altogether. I mean, I guess to an extent you could consider Mr. Kang a little bit of being a shellfish.
We are now video streaming the Rated R Safety Show. I don't know why our host has a face for radio. Rated R Safety Show.
Okay, so let's continue talking. 46 minutes past the top of the hour as you and I are ready and moving and grooving and doing everything that we do. Anyways, 5 years ago, Wanda Dench sent an accidental text that sparked traditional holiday tradition. Dench from Mesa, Arizona, thought that she was inviting her grandson for dinner, except that the message didn't go to her grandson. It went to Jamal Hinston, a high school kid in the same area. They had a laugh. Then Hinston jokingly asked if he could still come over. Dench replied, "Of course you can." As the grandmothers do feed everyone. Since then, the pair have connected every year and Hinton was supposed to get together on the social media. Even last year, after Dench's husband passed away from COVID-19, she was still able to connect with Hinton for the holidays. And this year, they'll meet once again. If you had a family like mine, you'd understand that the attraction of enjoying Thanksgiving with a total stranger. So I definitely get it. Or maybe you should, if you had a family like mine, you should actually serve, in solitude, enjoying Thanksgiving. What am I saying here? I'm going to get in all kinds of trouble for saying the things that I do.
We at Safety FM are not responsible for what this idiot behind the microphone is saying. He is trying to be entertaining. Rated R Safety Show.
Okay, when Rita Hopkins turned 70, she decided to get a tattoo. 4 years later, with the assistance of a program at her senior living community called the Living the Dream, she was able to make it happen. Living the Dream helps residents in Lexington, Kentucky facilitate and fulfill items on their bucket list. For some, it's going to a sporting event, traveling, but in Hopkins' case, she wanted to get some ink done. Earlier this month, Hopkins chose to get the infinity sign with 3 small hearts to represent her grandchildren who recently moved to Michigan and can't see her as often as they used to. Quote, I'll always have this right here with me. So there you go. What a touching moment. Wanting to get a tattoo of your grandchildren with an infinity sign at the ripe old age of 74. I think that we could have a whole weird tattoo conversation if we so decided to do so, but I don't think that that's going to be something that you're going to care for too much if we are to do it right now. But that's just me talking because that's what I do around here. If not, what else would we do? Anyways, to continue talking, what else did we got? So let's talk about some areas of, should we do you know? Did you know? No, let's not do did you know yet. Matter of fact, let's hold off on that. So let's get Johnny Smalls in here and tell you what happened with the stocks on Friday, because I think that that's going to be important to you. Take a listen.
Here's your Market Beat Minute for Monday, November 22nd, 2021. Equities were mixed to end the last week, but left the NASDAQ Composite and the S&P 500 trading at new all-time highs. The move was driven by better than expected economic data, as well as the passage of the infrastructure package. The package, if nothing else, promises to unleash trillions in spending over the next few years, and that is stimulus enough for the stock market. Earnings from the retail sector are also to blame for last week's performance. The sector reported largely better than expected numbers, but gave a mixed view of the holiday season. While inventory should remain robust through the end of the year, there are some concerns that products arriving from Asia will be in short supply come January. You can get the inside track from Wall Street's brightest minds delivered directly to your inbox every day at marketbeatminute.com.
Your Wellness Minute is brought to you by alasamorgan.com. With Thanksgiving feast approaching for those of us in the U.S., many think about how the upcoming long weekend is going to impact our waistlines. The good news is that a single meal, regardless of how large, doesn't generally have a long-term impact on body weight, fat mass, or important metabolic parameters. Though many notice an uptick in weight the morning after a heavy meal, such overnight weight gain is typically the result of water retention, as larger meals usually correspond to larger quantities of sodium and carbs. What's important to know is that it's easy to let a single oversized meal to turn into a series of oversized meals, and the excess calories quickly add up. Therefore, rather than not indulging during Thanksgiving dinner, it is recommended to focus weight management plans on post-Thanksgiving timeframe and have a plan for those leftovers. For this and more information on wellness, please visit alasamorgan.com.
The Motivation Minute is courtesy of InsuranceChicken.com. Today's quote has been submitted by Dan. Steve Jobs said, "Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life." That's so true. Follow your own dream, not the dream someone else has for you. I know a guy who went to school to become a doctor because everyone else in his family is a doctor. So he felt like he had to be a doctor too. It was expected of him. Meanwhile, he's a doctor, but he's miserable, and he feels like he's wasting his life. I feel really bad for my friend, but ultimately, he made the choice because it was easier for him to be miserable than it was to disappoint his family. This has been today's Motivation Minute, courtesy of InsuranceChicken.com. They're known for insurance quotes. I'm John Small. Thanks for listening. Your favorite motivational quotes can be submitted for upcoming programs at motivationminute.org.
What did he just say?
We at Safety FM don't always agree with the viewpoints of our hosts and guests.
Now back to real safety talk on Safety FM.
Okay, there you go. 52 minutes past the top of the hour. You got some wellness, you got some motivation, and you got the stocks all in one shot there. So anyways, good times right there. Anyways, let me tell you about my friends real quick at the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. Whether you have struggled with suicide yourself or have lost a loved one, know that you are not alone. Hear about personal experiences from people in your local communities whose lives have been impacted by suicide and depression. To find out more information, all you have to do is go to afsp.org. That is afsp.org, or call 1-800-273-8255. That's 1-800-273-8255, or text the word TALK to 741-741. Keep in mind real quick that the holidays are different for everyone. And some people, this is not a time of the year that they tend to love or enjoy. So even though this information that I share with you about the National Suicide Prevention does not mean that this is not something that you cannot share with others. And I should say the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention is probably the better way because that's the actual name of the place. But it is something you can share with others because it is information that's always important across the board. Just something to think about as we are talking on this lovely Monday, 54 minutes past the top of the hour. Anyways, let's continue talking. Let's talk about Did You Know? Have another slice. Pumpkin pie is good for you. Some spices usually include in the recipe cinnamon, nutmeg, and ginger. Not only do pies have distinctive flavors, they also help improve our mood. Cinnamon increases level of calming brain waves. Nutmeg produces a feel-good brain chemical, and ginger relaxes your muscles. So only one slice contains more than the daily recommended value of vitamin A, which also benefits eyesight and your immune system. So if you're needing an excuse on some reasons on why to take some, well, now you have some. Anyways, let's talk about some birthdays that are going on today. Billie Jean, let's see, was born back in 1943, turned 78 today. Stephen Van Zandt turned 71. Lawrence Gowan turns 65. Jamie Lee Curtis turned 63 today. Still wrestling with the Halloween movies. I like it. Mads Mikkelsen turns 56. Mark Ruffalo turns turns 54. Almost said 64. From Avengers fame. Scarlett Johansson turns 37. Now, isn't that interesting? I did not realize they shared a birthday, and then they had love interest inside of Avengers, and then they kind of cut the whole circuit altogether. That's a whole other story. Let's see. Oscar Pistorius turns 35 today, and then Hailey Bieber. Yeah, Hailey Bieber. She turns 25 today. So there you go. Some very interesting things that are occurring there. Anyways, if you're looking back at today in history, let's talk about this. Back in 1963, U.S. President John F. Kennedy was assassinated by Lee Harvey Oswald in Dallas. That happened back on this date, back in 1963. Wow, some things to think about there when you start talking about all that stuff. Anyways, let's talk about some other things going on inside of the world. If you're looking for a reason to celebrate today, I got some for you. Go for a ride on something day. That's something, a day that you rather be relaxing on a bus, a horse, a motorcycle, a boat, whatever. I mean, go out there and use a car dealer and take a ride. I mean, I don't know, do something. Start your own country day. What 3 things would be different if you ran your own nation? Well, how about no taxes, and no taxes? There you go. Stop the Violence Day is another day that's observed today. Annually, on the anniversary of 1963 assassination of U.S. President John F. Kennedy, is something that's celebrated on the day of today. So there you go. Anyways, to continue talking about some whack facts, I got some whack facts for you before we get you out of here. You can sweat as much as 3 gallons or 11.3 liters of water a day in a hot climate. Dr. Pepper, Coca-Cola, and Higher Roots beer were invented in 1886. Your fingernails are made from the same substance as a bird's beak. Michael Jackson tried to buy Marvel so he could star in Spider-Man movies. The communicator walkie-talkie Star Wars The Phantom Menace is actually a Gillette women's razor. According to a British mathematician, John Enzer Littlewood, you can expect the experience events with odds of 1 million, the rate of 1 time per month. So there you go. Just some things to think about as we are talking. Anyways, let's get you into some other stuff before we get you out of here. At the top of the hour, I will be going over and hanging out at radiobig.fm if you want to come over and do some things with me as we take a listen to some music and start getting you ready for the holiday season, because that's going to be happening this week. Anyways, if I can give you a random joke for today, I got one for you. With great power comes even greater electricity bills. If you need a phone starter for today, go ahead and give this one a try. You can try it on this fashion. If you could have one question answered, what would it be? And if you need something for the water cooler, you can try this. The average guy says that he has 5 of these. What are they? They're jokes. That's what they have. Anyways, you've been listening to the Rated R Safety Show exclusively on radiobig.fm and safetyfm.com. Safety FM is the home of real safety talk. We can't do what we do without you, the most important part of Safety FM and Radio Big, and that is the listener. Listen, I don't know what you have going on this week. I hope you do make it fun and festive. If you are working, it still can be festive and fun while you're doing so. Anyways, I hope you have a great week. We will be back tomorrow if you're not coming back to radiobig.fm with me, but we will be back tomorrow doing another Rated R Safety Show just for you. If I can actually leave you with a thought for today, I would love to leave you with this one. All pets are therapy pets. Some are just working undercover. Think about that. I know who you are. You know who I am. Duh. Love you, mean it, and goodbye. Goodbye. I'm sure we'll speak very, 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 very soon, depending on where you want to come and hang out and do the things that we do together. Because if not, then what's the whole point?
The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the host and its guest and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the company. Examples of analysis discussed within this podcast are only examples. They should not be utilized in the real world as the only solution available, as they are based only on very limited and dated open source information. Assumptions made within this analysis are not reflective of the position of the company. No part of this podcast may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means, mechanical, electronic, recording, or otherwise, without prior written permission of the creator of the podcast, Jay Allen.